She thought a few carefully chosen words could remove a black man from first class. He was wrong. He simply reached into his pocket and flashed his FBI badge. Patricia Langford glided through Dallas-Fort Worth International, her designer carry-on trailing seamlessly. This route was second nature. Dallas to Washington, D.C. first class always. Air travel for her was a predictable symphony of priority boarding, complimentary champagne, and hushed professional tones. She anticipated comfort, exclusivity. So her steps faltered when she spotted a black man in a sharp navy suit already settled in her row. He exuded quiet confidence, eyes fixed on his laptop screen as if reviewing vital information. Patricia's lips compressed. She placed her designer tote down with an audible thud, masking her clear displeasure as she took her seat. First class wasn't meant to be like this. Daniel Stokes, the man beside her, barely acknowledged her presence. He typed, absorbed, the laptop's glow reflecting off his dark skin, highlighting the sharp angles of his face. He possessed an inherent composure, someone who belonged. Patricia, however, remained unconvinced. She inhaled sharply, shifting. Her purse accidentally nudged his armrest. No reaction. She sat straighter, glancing around, almost expecting a flight attendant to rectify this mistake. Then she escalated. She leaned slightly, ensuring her presence was felt. "Excuse me," she began, her voice carefully modulated. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" Daniel didn't even look up. "Yes." Simple. No elaboration. Patricia cleared her throat, scanning the cabin again. This time she caught the eye of Emily Jacobs, a flight attendant in her early 30s. Patricia subtly raised a hand, beckoning her over. Daniel sighed, a subtle but distinct sound. Emily approached, her professional smile intact. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" Patricia forced a small, amused chuckle. "I think there's been a little mix-up. I believe this gentleman is in the wrong seat." Emily glanced at Daniel, who finally paused typing, looking up. His expression was unreadable. Not surprise, not confusion, something else. Emily consulted her tablet, quickly scanning the passenger manifest. "Actually, Mr. Stokes is in his correct seat," she stated politely. "Your ticket is 2A and he's in 2B. Patricia blinked, her fingers tightening on the armrest. "That's odd," she forced a laugh. "Are you sure?" "Well, I just assumed." Emily, already aware of the unfolding drama, offered a reassuring smile. "I'm sure, ma'am. Everything looks correct." Patricia's face twitched, her carefully constructed composure faltering for a split second before she plastered on a tight-lipped smile. "Well," she exhaled, "I suppose mistakes happen." She turned to the window, but she wasn't finished. Not even close. Daniel, meanwhile, had already returned to his work. Emily hesitated, sensing the lingering tension, then gave Daniel a brief nod before moving away. But Patricia was seething. Her fingers drummed against her knee, her breath shallow. Her eyes darted from the flight crew back to Daniel. He wasn't reacting. He wasn't offering explanations or reassurances. He wasn't playing the game she'd anticipated. This fueled her anger. Patricia wasn't one to let things slide. She wouldn't suffer in silence. Action was imminent. Patricia sat stiffly, arms crossed, her mind racing. This was unacceptable. Decades of first-class travel, and never, not once, had she encountered such a situation. The man beside her wasn't doing anything overtly wrong, but that didn't matter. He didn't belong. Her breathing quickened, irritation simmering just beneath the surface. She couldn't simply sit here and accept this. She pressed the call button. A soft chime sounded. Emily Jacobs reappeared moments later, her smile still professional and warm. "Ma'am, is there something I can help you with?" Patricia kept her voice low, carefully measured. "I'd like to request a seat change." Emily blinked. "Oh, are you uncomfortable? Is there an issue with the seat itself?" Patricia hesitated. She couldn't articulate her true thoughts. Instead, she tilted her head towards Daniel, lowering her voice further. I don't feel comfortable sitting here," she said, her words slow, deliberate. Emily's smile faltered. "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. If there's a technical issue with the seat, I'd be happy to." "No, it's not the seat," Patricia interrupted. She exhaled sharply. "I just prefer to sit elsewhere." Emily glanced at Daniel, who had paused typing again but remained silent. He was listening, waiting, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, jaw tight. "Let me check if there are any open seats," Emily said, tapping her tablet. "Just a moment." Patricia leaned back, lips pressed into a firm line. Daniel offered no reaction, no argument, no acknowledgement, no question about her discomfort. This only inflamed her further. A few rows ahead, a man in a blazer subtly turned his head, pretending to check his phone but clearly eavesdropping. Across the aisle, a woman nudged her husband. People were noticing. Emily's fingers moved swiftly over the screen. "I'm afraid we're at full capacity today, ma'am. There aren't any open first-class seats available." Patricia's stomach clenched. Emily smiled apologetically. "Would you like me to check in economy? There might be a seat available there." Patricia's face burned. Economy? As if she ever would. Her voice caught. "That's not going to work." Emily's smile remained unwavering. "In that case, I hope you don't mind staying in your assigned seat." Patricia forced a thin-lipped smile. "I suppose I have no choice." Emily nodded. "Let me know if you need anything else." She walked away, but Patricia barely registered her departure. Her ears were ringing. Daniel, still silent, returned to his laptop. That was it. His response. He would simply pretend she didn't exist? Her fingers curled into fists. This wasn't over. She exhaled sharply and pressed the call button again. This time, Emily hesitated before returning. "Ma'am." Patricia sat straighter. "I need to speak to someone in charge." Emily's face remained neutral. "I'm the lead flight attendant on this flight. Is there something I can clarify for you?" Patricia's voice sharpened. "I need to speak to the head crew member or the pilot." A murmur rippled through the cabin. Someone quietly chuckled. Emily's expression remained professional, but her patience was visibly thinning. "Ma'am, the pilot is preparing for takeoff and won't be available, but I'm happy to assist you." Patricia pursed her lips, her jaw tightening. Daniel wasn't reacting. No nervousness, no discomfort. It was as if he'd been through this before. She lowered her voice again. "I don't feel safe." That changed everything. Emily's smile vanished, her body stiffened. Daniel stopped typing. Across the aisle, a middle-aged man with a Bluetooth earpiece muttered, "Here we go again." Emily straightened. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but can you clarify what you mean?" Patricia folded her hands neatly in her lap, tilting her head slightly. "I just don't feel comfortable." She paused just long enough to imply something without overtly stating it. "I don't want to be difficult, but I think it would be best if someone else took this seat." Daniel closed his laptop. This time he met her gaze directly, and for the first time, Patricia felt a flicker of uncertainty. But Patricia wasn't letting go, she was getting louder. A hush settled over the cabin, Patricia's words hanging heavy in the air. "I don't feel safe." The phrase carried power. It didn't need volume. It was carefully chosen to provoke a reaction. Emily, still standing, remained still, her posture stiff. Her eyes darted to Daniel, whose laptop was now fully closed, hands resting atop it. No smile, no frown, just a steady, scrutinizing stare at Patricia. Patricia didn't waver, not yet. Emily exhaled slowly. "Ma'am," she said carefully, "are you saying you feel threatened?" Patricia tilted her head slightly, offering the barest shrug. "I'm not saying that. I just don't feel comfortable, that's all." Across the aisle, the businessman with the Bluetooth scoffed, muttering, "Unbelievable." 3 rows back, a young woman discreetly lifted her phone, pretending to text but clearly recording. Other passengers whispered, heads turning towards Patricia. Patricia noticed the shift, the tide turning against her. But she wasn't about to back down. "This is a simple request," she continued, feigning politeness. "I'm just asking to be accommodated. If I'm uncomfortable, I should have the right to move seats, shouldn't I?" Emily's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, I already checked and there are no open first-class seats available." Patricia pressed her lips together. "And coach?" Emily hesitated. "There are 2 open seats in economy." Patricia straightened. "Perfect. He can take one of them." A low ripple of murmurs spread through the cabin. Daniel inhaled deeply, his fingers drumming once on his laptop before going still. He wasn't arguing, wasn't responding, but he also wasn't moving. Emily blinked, as if replaying Patricia's words to ensure she heard correctly. "Ma'am," her voice was lower now, firmer, Just to clarify, you want me to move this passenger to economy because you don't want to sit next to him? Patricia nodded once, sitting straighter. Yes. Emily inhaled sharply. That won't be happening. Patricia's eyes snapped up. Excuse me. Emily folded her hands in front of her, voice unwavering. Mr. Stokes has a first-class ticket just like you. He is in his assigned seat. I cannot and will not ask him to move. Patricia's face flushed. She was losing control. Passengers were staring openly now, some whispering, some shaking their heads. The young woman with the phone was still recording. Patricia felt her stomach twist. This is ridiculous, she hissed. I am simply asking for the same courtesy that would be extended to anyone else who feels uncomfortable. Emily didn't budge. You are asking me to remove a paying passenger from his assigned first-class seat and relocate him to economy for no valid reason. That is not an accommodation. That is discrimination. A sharp silence followed. Someone let out a low whistle. Daniel hadn't moved, hadn't said a word. He just watched Patricia waiting. Patricia's pulse pounded in her ears. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Emily squared her shoulders. Ma'am, we are about to taxi. If you cannot remain seated and follow flight crew instructions, I will have to ask you to deplane. Patricia's stomach dropped. What? Emily's tone remained professional but firm. You have two options. Stay in your seat quietly or you can deplane. But Mr. Stokes is not moving. A few passengers clapped softly. Patricia felt humiliation rise in her chest. This wasn't how things were supposed to work. She wasn't supposed to be the one getting reprimanded. She opened her mouth, ready to argue, but before she could, Daniel reached into his pocket. He pulled out a leather case, flipped it open and held it up. And just like that, everything changed. A gold FBI badge gleamed under the cabin lights. The air in the plane shifted. Patricia's entire body went rigid. Passengers gasped, a few even chuckled. The young woman recording zoomed in immediately. Daniel's voice was calm, utterly unreadable. Ma'am, he said smoothly, tilting his head, would you like to file an official complaint? I can take your statement right now. Patricia's breath hitched. She couldn't speak. Daniel didn't move, didn't blink. He just waited. And for the first time, Patricia felt truly trapped. But Patricia wasn't just embarrassed. Real consequences were coming. The cabin's silence was thick, stretching uncomfortably between Patricia and Daniel. His FBI badge glinted, the gold emblem unmistakable, a revelation that shifted the entire room. Passengers who had whispered moments ago now openly stared, some smirking, others wide-eyed. Patricia's mouth went dry, her brain scrambling for an explanation and escape. This wasn't supposed to happen. The man she'd tried to have removed, the man she implied was a threat, was federal law enforcement. Her throat tightened. Daniel's expression remained unchanged. No smile, no gloating. He simply sat there, badge in hand, eyes locked on hers, waiting. His voice was steady, level, unreadable. Would you like to file an official complaint, ma'am? The words hung like a loaded gun. Patricia's body froze, heat creeping up her neck. She tried to speak, but only a faint, strangled "I" emerged. Daniel tilted his head slightly. You said you felt uncomfortable, he continued, tone polite but sharp. That's a serious allegation on a federal flight. If you believe I've done something inappropriate, I'd be happy to take your statement. Patricia's stomach dropped. She could feel the shift. Moments ago she controlled the narrative, expecting sympathy. Now she was under scrutiny. A man 2 rows ahead let out a low chuckle. Oh, this is priceless, he muttered, shaking his head. The young woman recording zoomed in on Patricia's face. Emily, the flight attendant, stood nearby, arms crossed, face neutral, but something in her eyes, a silent understanding, quiet expectation. Everyone was waiting. Patricia's breath came fast and shallow. She couldn't admit she'd lied, couldn't say she'd made it up to get rid of him. But if she doubled down, if she pushed the claim, she'd be accusing a federal agent of being a danger on a flight. That came with consequences. Her hands trembled. Daniel hadn't looked away. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Patricia shook her head, barely a movement. No, she croaked. No complaint. Daniel nodded once as if he'd expected it. Slowly he closed his badge, tucked it back into his jacket and reopened his laptop. Just like that it was over, for him. For Patricia, the nightmare was just beginning. A few passengers murmured approval, a couple even clapped softly. The businessman across the aisle smirked and returned to his newspaper. The young woman with the phone was already typing. Patricia's heart pounded. She wanted to melt into her seat, to disappear, to undo the last 10 minutes. But there was no undoing this. She had publicly embarrassed herself, exposed, and worse, people had seen it, recorded it. Her eyes darted around the cabin, searching for an ally, a sympathetic look. No one. Even Emily, patient moments ago, had lost the warmth in her expression. Patricia swallowed hard. She wanted to argue, to regain control, but she knew deep down there was nothing left to say. The flight wasn't even off the ground and she had already lost. But Patricia wasn't just embarrassed. She was about to face real consequences. Patricia sat rigidly, staring straight ahead, breathing shallow, face burning. This wasn't mere embarrassment. It was humiliation. Daniel had moved on, laptop open, fingers calmly tapping. It was as if she didn't exist. The rest of the cabin, however, hadn't forgotten. The businessman across the aisle smirked. The woman recording had stopped typing, but her phone remained angled, awaiting Patricia's reaction. Even the flight attendants, typically neutral, now carried a different air. Emily watched. Patricia felt it all. The weight of the stares, the quiet judgment. She had miscalculated badly. Her fingers twitched, heart hammering. This wasn't a minor misunderstanding she could smooth over. She had tried to have an FBI agent removed from his seat on camera. The implications settled heavy in her chest. Her mouth was dry. Emily finally stepped closer, her tone polite but no longer soft. "Ma'am," she said, voice low, "I need to confirm that you are okay to remain on this flight without further disruption." Patricia stiffened. A handful of passengers glanced over, pretending not to eavesdrop. She wanted to snap, to demand why she was being treated like the problem. But Daniel's badge had changed everything. She was trapped. The power she thought she possessed, gone. She forced her lips into what she hoped was a calm expression. "I'm fine." Emily's gaze lingered, then slowly she nodded. "I'm going to hold you to that." She turned and walked away. Patricia exhaled shakily, clenching her hands. It was over. Or so she thought. A sharp chime broke the silence. Patricia looked up as the young woman with the phone smirked at her screen, tapping twice. Patricia's stomach clenched. She knew that look. She'd seen it on her own grandchildren's faces when something went viral. Her fingers tightened around the armrest. She turned slightly, heart pounding, and stole a glance at the woman's screen. The video was already uploaded. Patricia felt the air knocked from her lungs. The caption was simple. "Racist woman tries to remove black man from first class, then learns he's FBI." Patricia's hands went cold. The flight wasn't even in the air and somehow she had already lost. If it was online, there was no stopping what came next. She turned forward, trying to steady her breathing, trying to convince herself it wouldn't be so bad. Maybe no one would care. Maybe it wouldn't spread. Her phone vibrated in her purse. Once, twice, a third time. Patricia's chest tightened. She didn't want to look. But her hands moved on their own, digging into her bag, wrapping around the device. He pulled it out. Her stomach dropped. Text messages from acquaintances, from family, from people she hadn't heard from in months. Each a variation of the same question. "Patricia, is this you? Just saw a video. Tell me this isn't real. Oh my God, what did you do?" Her heartbeat roared. She swiped open her browser with trembling hands and tapped on Twitter. Less than a second. Her name was already trending. The video had been uploaded less than 5 minutes ago, yet already had over 20,000 views. And the comments? They poured in. Patricia's vision blurred as she read the first few. "Karma is real. This lady really thought she could get away with it. Hope she enjoys the internet roasting she's about to get." Patricia's breath hitched. Her world wasn't just collapsing. It was burning. And for the first time, Patricia realized there was no coming back from this. But what happens after the flight lands is beyond Patricia's worst fears. Patricia gripped her phone, knuckles white. The cabin noise faded, drowned out by her own pounding pulse. She could barely breathe. The video spread, the view count climbing. 30,000, 42,000, 61,000. It wasn't slowing. She blinked, her mind scrambling for escape. But it was too late. She swiped down, reading more comments. Imagine being this entitled. Almeo, she really thought she was going to get away with it. The FBI part made my whole day. Instant karma. Expose her name, we need to know who she is. Her chest tightened. She glanced around the cabin as if to reverse time, but no one was looking at her. They'd seen enough. She shifted, her body rigid. Daniel, beside her, remained still, fingers tapping lightly. If he knew about the video, he didn't show it. He didn't care. And that somehow made it worse. Patricia's phone buzzed again. She flinched, then looked down. Her sister. She hesitated, then declined the call. She wasn't ready for that conversation. She wasn't ready for any of this. The plane had barely taken off, yet her world was collapsing. She exhaled sharply, forcing calm. She needed a plan. Apologize. No, that would fuel the fire. Ignore it? Pretend she hadn't seen it? Worse. Her mind raced, thoughts colliding, spiraling. Then the pilot's voice. Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning our descent into Washington, D.C. Local time is 5:43 p.m. Please ensure your seatbelts are fastened. Patricia's heart dropped. Landing. She'd been so focused on the chaos inside, she'd forgotten what waited outside. She refreshed the video one last time. 97,000 views. Her name was trending. Her hands shook as she stuffed her phone back into her bag, trying to convince herself she could still get ahead of this, that maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't be as bad as she thought. But Patricia still hoped the storm would pass, until she turned on the news. Patricia practically bolted off the plane the second the doors opened. She ignored the side glances, the quiet chuckles, the unspoken judgment. She just needed out. But as she hurried into Reagan National Airport, her pulse skipped. Near baggage claim, a cluster of reporters. Not a huge crowd, not yet, but enough. A woman in a navy blazer held a microphone, reading from her phone as a cameraman filmed. The now viral video shows an unidentified woman attempting to have an FBI agent removed from first class, citing discomfort. The clip has gained over 1 million views in just a few hours. Patricia stopped breathing. 1 million. Impossible. She turned quickly, praying they hadn't seen her, but one reporter locked eyes with her. The woman's face lit up. Wait, that's her. Patricia spun on her heel, panic spiking. She couldn't be seen like this. She moved fast, heels clicking sharply. She needed to exit. No. But her phone buzzed violently in her purse. Texts, missed calls, alerts. She couldn't outrun it. She shoved past travelers, breath short, hands clammy. She barely reached the curb before her name was shouted. Miss Langford. Do you have a response to the video? She winced. She hadn't even realized her name had been released. Taxi slowed. She nearly threw herself into the back seat. Go, she snapped at the driver. Now. He raised an eyebrow but pulled away without a word. Patricia pressed her hands to her temples, eyes squeezed shut. 1 million views. Her stomach churned. She'd built her life on careful reputation management. A good image, a respected name. In a single afternoon it was gone. Her phone vibrated again, an unrecognized number. She stared, heart hammering, then just before voicemail swiped to answer. Hello. A brief silence. Then a clipped voice. Miss Langford, this is James Rollins, chair of the Marston Foundation. I assume you're aware of the situation. Patricia's mouth went dry. She'd been on the Marston Foundation board for years, a charity priding itself on its progressive image, inclusivity, and ethical leadership. She knew what this call was about. He swallowed. James, we're going to need you to step down, he interrupted immediately. Patricia stared blankly. It wasn't a request, it was an order. Her pulse drummed. But this is being taken out of context. The board disagrees. His voice was flat, final. We'll issue a public statement by morning. We expect your resignation by then. A sharp beep. He had hung up. Patricia lowered the phone slowly. Her career was over. Her reputation gone. The worst part. No one cared about her explanation. They'd seen the video. And the video was enough. She let out a shaky breath. This wasn't something she could control. This was something she had done to herself. And now she had to live with it. Meanwhile, Daniel Stokes hadn't spared her another thought. He was likely in a meeting, completely unbothered, his life untouched. For him this had been just another Tuesday. If this story made you think, Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping real-life scenarios.